Well, I think where to start is not important. You can start anywhere. Because you cannot start everywhere at the same time. You need to start somewhere. But if you publish a memoranda showing what you are doing, it might get rid of all this confusion that might be coming up. So I think maybe what requires is that Kenyans needed to be prepared for what was happening. Maybe there was a failure in communication, and tell us that we are going to address political, violence around ethnicity and politics, going backwards, beginning with the latest, going backwards to the 1963. Then that way maybe it would be possible to let Kenyans know that there's a program, so that those questions of saying why Nakuru and not Loitoktok does not arise. Because we would know that we are beginning in Nakuru and we shall end up in Loitoktok. So maybe there's a failure of communication from the government, and it needs to give us a communique and say, this is what we are going to address. But for as long as those reports are not addressed and they have unearthed issues and they are in the public domain, then they become fault lines that work against a cohesive society.
All right. And finally, the economy continues to tank as we talk about the effects of coronavirus, the pandemic. There's now calling it the pandemic. Some have called it the pandemic because the government has been eating more than the sick. What are your thoughts about the way it has been handled? And do you think we should continue the situation that we are in terms of locking down the economy and every other sector that we are talking about?
Well, personally, I'm totally against lockdowns. Because I tend to believe that the cure should not be worse than the disease. But we can only achieve that if we obey the guidelines that have been given by the Ministry of Health. If we can sanitize, if we can keep social distance, if we can wear masks, if we can cut down on unnecessary gatherings and travel, then we can still have the economy running without having lockdowns, which have got very, very dire consequences. Many people have been thrown into squalor. Many livelihoods have been destroyed, and even lives have been lost. So I would really say that if we became responsible and just adhere to the guidelines that have been issued, we can avoid the lockdowns. But if push comes to shove and things run out of hand, then the only weapon the government might have is a lockdown. Contain people in their homes until the virus maybe dissipates, or something like that.
All right.
So I think it's really a public health issue. Just like with malaria, we are told slash your compound, don't leave water standing around, keep a clean environment where mosquitoes cannot replicate and whatever. So the same with the virus, it's largely a public health issue that needs to be pushed as a way of prevention being better than cure, so that if we prevent something that's preventable, and we have seen it's preventable, then we take up the measures. It may be inconvenient to wear a mask. It may be inconvenient to keep on washing our hands, and all those things are inconvenient. It may be inconvenient not to meet with your friends and choice nyamachoma joints in a group. But that's the inconvenience we might take for the greater good of keeping the economy going and running. Because the consequences of lockdowns are really, really dire. Because sometimes if you lock down a restaurant, you have not just locked down a restaurant, you have locked down maybe even the chicken farmer. Yeah. You have locked down a lot of things. You have locked down the motorbike fellow who transports the chicken to the restaurant. The multiplier effects are unbelievable. Yeah. And that's why you are seeing the economy totally nosediving. So we must really get the easier way out, which is to obey the guidelines that the government has given, to sanitize, to keep social distance, to mask up.
All right. In 5 minutes, allow me to give an opportunity to my panelists to maybe give a few comments on the same on your statements, or ask a question that they could have. Then we will give you an opportunity to give your final remarks. Muchendu, I'll start with you.
Hi, Okiya.
It's Okiya, not Omkiya. Everybody calls me Omkiya, and I don't have a tail at the back of my head.
Okiya Omtatah.
Yes.
It's always fun to see. I wanted to hear your input on, we are talking about the pandemic continuing to affect this country, and most county governments have not been paying the health workers who are in the front line. I don't know what is your take on that issue, because it is a paramount issue of importance that we continue to lose very serious frontline health workers, and government doesn't seem to be bothered by that.
It's a case of misplaced priorities, because if you have your soldiers on an empty stomach, they cannot fight any war. That's a given, and I think during this time, I think it would have done. The government should have gone out of its way to beef up the resources around the health workers who are the frontline workers, because you'll find that even assuming Kenya was to go to a war that was very serious war, people would be asked maybe to sell their household goods and contribute to the government effort to fight that war. So we needed the same mobilization of the population and the resources that the country has, and especially the strategic reserves that are there to deal with the disasters and emergencies, to make sure that the medical personnel are addressed. And also the issue of the pandemic. The pandemic is like a war. It's not like life as usual. So it is the driver should be the national government, not the county government. The national government should have come in strongly to make sure that all the facilities that it has are working. And of course, they were forgetting one thing, that there was a lot of money that was stolen from the knee. And I would have expected to see those people hanging from lamp posts in Uhuru Park. We need some very, very symbolically, they were not necessarily. We need some very, very serious action to be taken against those people who stole these public funds. And even maybe an emergency, state of emergency, sort of a what had happened, so that we deter any further behavior like that. So that the calamities don't become opportunities for this so-called looters.
People
so I think that there has been a big failure in terms of resourcing the health sector. But all is not lost. You can still go back and do that and resource the health sector, resource whatever. And in the long run, I will also expect the government to address the question of veterinary officers. Because if you realize this virus has come from animals, so we may need the veterinary officers also we beef up our veterinary officers. We look at the areas like meat inspections, which have been ignored, and many people are getting very old and they might be retiring. We look at all those things so that public health becomes the forte of our health policy. So that curative health only kicks in where public health has failed, not that curative health becomes the first line of
response.
And so I think that has been the failure. And even before you go to the medical workers, that is still curative. We should be doing a lot much more to prevent people from falling sick, to prevent people from getting the virus before they even get to the health workers. And that's why the real war is. Because when you get the health workers, it's basically a failure of the defenses have been breached. So you're basically like roping up to react. You have lost the proactive war.
All right. Ben, your question or comment?
Hello, Mr. Okiya Omtatah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Jambo sana. Mine would be, what do you think? What's your take on the government's plan to tax the civil servants in order to create a pay kitty for the unemployed?
It's not the first time they're taxing people for certain things like those, because if you look at the catering levy tax, what is it aimed at? If you look at the sugar tax, when you buy your sugar, there's a tax on it that ends up in the sugar belt. They were supposed to end up there. If it ends up, I don't know, but it's supposed to end up in the sugar belt, develop the sugar industry. You see,
the fuel levies.
These taxes are there. If you look at the fuel tax for the roads, you see. So if the purpose is genuine, and the politicians and our parliamentarians look at it and agree, so the justification is what would matter. but not to raise money saying you are going to raise money for employment, and then it ends up maybe, even if it's not misuse, it ends up building a road, you see. Or it ends up doing, although the road might also be seen as a means of production for employment. So the question of taxing for a specific purpose is not alien to the tax regime in this country. What requires is the justification and the management of those taxes. That's how I would look at it. But in terms of just tax, I think Kenyans are heavily taxed. And there's a major problem in the utilization of the taxes. I would love to see an improvement in the utilization of taxes before we impose more as a practical issue. But in principle, I don't think there's anything wrong with imposing a tax specific to a certain. Most of our taxes are geared that way.
All right. Please give us your final remarks.
My final remarks is, let us be good Kenyans, let us observe the law, let us worship God, our Creator. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you again. We would love to have an interview again with you at your convenience because we want to tap more into. I'm seeing some comments here. People are really impressed about what you're talking about. Rafael Kiplimo says Okiya has always been Wanjiku's savior. Naona Jimwangi anasema they will steal the money. Also seeing Fred Kimpai says this man Okiya, my all-time honest civil rights activist. Abbas Nugara says industrialization and we do not even have drinking water in every part of the country. I'm seeing also Lawrence Kiblagat and said, I've never listened to Okiya from Bitok is the kind of people we need, saying it as it is. Kiliafa says, good morning. Okiya is full of immense senses, is oozing wisdom to the greedy political leaders. BBI is full of dimwits and danda heads. Nachele Mongara says, watching the good discussion. Okiya, Lavuna. Aluta Konya says, enjoying the show from Coventry, United Kingdom. Keep the good work. Asante sana. Franco Petro, good morning, watching from Cape Town, South Africa. Okiya, it's good to have you. We hope to see you again. I'll come to your office and have an interview with you. Thank you so much, Okiya. Have a blessed day.
You're welcome.
Asante.
Anytime.
Nashukuru. Asante.
You're welcome.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. And, all right. Thank you so much for the guys who have contributed to the conversation that we've been having. Asante sana. What are your rejoinders, Muchendu?
One thing I like about Okiya Omtatah is he's as honest as they come, and it is good to respect his opinion on matters. Most of his opinions are not personalized opinion, and therefore he gets quite a bigger following because he touches on issues that are for the common mwananchi. And offering himself to be doing that is very selfless. I must congratulate on him on that. Nonetheless, I must also say I feel that when it comes to the issues of politics of the day, he is very careful not to entangle himself with them.
He's very sly.
Therefore, it is very hard to know what exactly he stands for in terms of politics of this republic. Probably it's good for his trade, I would say.
Do you say trade?
Yes, trade, for his trade, yes. I did say trade because basically we have known Okiya Omtatah because of taking the bull by its horn in the courts. It can never be lost that despite him taking selfless acts like those, it cannot be lost that he is a Kenyan who is living in Kenya and with expenses. So there must be somewhat, whatever, anything he earns out of that. This is Kenya, my friend. You know, you cannot actually live on bread alone. You have to. Anyway, nonetheless, it is an honor to actually share a platform with him. I hope we get time to come and sit on this, and I hope he comes to a time when our new studios are
yes, already. You know, these guys were miaka economic, so you wanaogopa kwenda kwa baba. That's why they're really staying away.
Otherwise, looking at some of the issues that he has raised, and I've insisted here that this particular document called BBI has it used the right path constitutionally to get where it is?
Yes.
How did we end up putting 10 billion shillings to this particular document? Did we initiate the constitutional amendment process the right way? Now that's something that we can ponder on as to the pathway for this document to be where it is today. I agree with him to that extent that it is not a matter of when we should amend the constitution, because I have always insisted that a constitution is a progressive document. It can be amended. It's only that the only time we could not amend the constitution was the first 10 years, as it was required by the part of the schedule of this constitution. But constitution is a progressive document. It can be amended any time for whatever purpose. But the process of doing that must be overboard. Something we cannot actually testify for BBI. The path under which BBI has used to get where it is a path that is extra-constitutional. It is a path that has a lot of questions to ask. The financing, the process of appointing people. Have we reduced our constitution to the feeling of individuals? That His Excellency the President feels that if he feels he needs to amend the constitution, he will call me and him, and then we agree to amend the constitution of the Republic without involving 50 million Kenyans. It is not a wonder his own NIS has said 19% are the only people favoring the constitution. And you look at that 19%, these are who is who in government plus their foot soldiers. Some of them are here, they get paid 527 shillings a day.
527.
527. Unajua nilikwambia hawezi pitishiwa hapo. Because wenye wanawalipa, they don't pay tax. Therefore they cannot pay them enough money to attract tax. Ndio maana unasikia haifikagi 530, 527. 527 na hiyo ni ya juu, ni ya kutoa. So I think I agree with Okiya Omtatah that this document, in fact, we have done it a lot of justice to actually interrogate it, because it has not gotten here through the right means. It has not gotten here through the right way as prescribed in the Constitution. And there is something paramount that he has touched, that this country, the first thing we should have dealt with was come up with an amendment, a referendum, a constitutional referendum act that prescribed the process of doing a referendum. Today, we are free-flopping because we do not have a clear indication in our constitution. This constitution does not clearly indicate the process of doing a referendum. Because I believe if we are, this republic is a commonwealth, we belong to a commonwealth of nations. And therefore, our constitution and our system of government are based on the commonwealth institutions. And it is important we look at the referendum acts that are provided for in other commonwealth countries. And if you look at them, the UK and other countries, you realize that they only have an issue-based referendum. That we are amending the constitution, this protective clauses of the constitution are being amended to expand the executive. Let that come as a question in the referendum. We are expanding the representation of the Republic of Kenya. Let it come. The issue of the 70 MPs. Who the hell tells you that we will create 70 new, we are going to provide for 70 new members of parliament, and then they go further to say that parliament will enact legislation on how their entry to parliament will be. It is the most idiotic thing I have heard. Do you know the reason why they don't want to talk about creating new constituencies? It is if you look at the process provided for creation of new constituencies, it means that if we open that Pandora's box of redoing and modeling our boundaries, we are going to lose a lot of constituencies, especially in northern Kenya. You come to central Kenya, we lose constituencies like Daragwa. We lose constituencies like Kenny, not Kenny. We lose constituencies like Mukorweini. We will lose constituencies like Madhioya. We will lose quite a number of hoping constituencies that do not meet the prescribed requirements of a constitution in the constitution. And therefore, they do not want to upset our brothers in northern Kenya, because this is a con game. We have to keep them at bay, remain with 290 constituencies, come up with a formula of 70 new members of parliament, but the entry of these 70 new members of parliament becomes a problem. Lakini unaambiwa parliament will enact.
I think what is
agenda?
Yeah, I think, first of all, let me salute Okiya Omtatah. I support his views. He's been candid enough. What I think Kenya lacks is that we lack a government that is able to implement the constitution to the latter. Because if this constitution, the 2010 constitution, is implemented to the latter, then we will not need the BBI. And just as my friend has said, we have as Kenyans to look critically into the BBI and look at it clearly to see, is it meant for Wanjiko, or is it a document that is meant for the Big Five? You understand? And if it is meant for the Big Five, then how is it going to help us in uniting the nation? For example, let me go to the legislature where they say the president appoints the prime minister, you know, from the party with the majority. And we have a scenario where the president has won, his party has the majority. So the president is going to have the president, the deputy president, his and all those positions. So how are we going to say that it's a win-win situation? When you come to the judiciary, we all know that the judiciary is always underfunded. So we add up the ombudsman, which, if you look at it critically, the ombudsman is supposed to be the president's watchdog. You know, it's just there to try and destabilize the independence of the judiciary. So these are things that Kenyans have to look at critically, analyze critically, and also ask themselves, why is the rush? Because I do not see, if people are raising issues and they are saying, we are not against this BBI, but we just want it to be considerate. You know, we have had the pastoralists coming out. We have had the farmers coming out. We've had the church coming out. You know, what is so hard in just having these people and saying, this is the time frame, so you bring your views, let us agree together, let us work together. And that way, the way Uhuru wants to live a united country, it is going to give him the best legacy ever. You understand?
Yes.
Because look at it this way. We passed the BBI. It is enacted in part of the constitution, but it fails to be implemented. Then what happened? Does it solve the winner take it all? Does it stop post-election violence? No. So, to me, clearly, as Gidendo has said, this is a two-people project, because looking at it clearly, even if you saw the statement that was given during the handshake, it was not signed as President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. It was signed by Uhuru Kenyatta and it was signed by Raila Odinga. Not even his party Jubilee or not even his party ODM.
All right. Now, the story on the Standard, on the top page of the Standard, on the headline, it says COVID-19 tax goodies to go as Kenya grapples with a big debt. Worst financial crisis, Kenya is running empty. The country is under pressure to repay billions in debt. The shilling is weakening and counties are broke. The government is facing tough choices. Now, we have been given some tax incentives during Corona period. Now, the government believes that it is broke, but Kenyans are not broke. they want to remove these tax regimes. I mean, what does this do? What does it to? What does this directive mean?
Let me give you an in-depth of how broke this country is. And before I am accused of plagiarism, I want to lead sentiments by one Honorable Didi Nyoro, the Member of Parliament for Kiharu. And he opines, the President Moi Kibaki left a thriving country with only 1.8 trillion both domestic and foreign debts. Our current situation is in excess of 7 trillion in debt. We borrow Kenya shillings 2.5 billion every day. While we read a budget of close to 3 trillion, KRA target for the year is partly 1.2 trillion. Our external debt is over 3.5 trillion, which is almost entirely dollar dominated. This means anytime our local currency, Kenya shillings, loses to the greenback by 1%, our external debt increases by 35 billion without receiving any coin from our debtors. I mean, when you see on TV that our Kenya shillings moved from 107 to 108 to the dollar, our debt increases by around 35 billion just like that. But we have been told some document has solution for all this misleadership and clearly lopsided priorities. If we cannot afford to remit to counties 15% already provided, how are we going to afford the proposed 35%? That is how this country has sunk in debt. But our priority is a certain document. And as Okiya Omtatah has ably said, the problem is not the laws in this republic. The problem is the people we have entrusted leadership with. Are they willing to execute the law as it is prescribed? This is it. And I'll tell you, while I agree with the sentiments of Didi Nyoro, which are very factual, I will also have a rejoinder for him, because it is this parliament that has increased the debt ceiling to 9 trillion shillings. So, as we are talking, we are in debt 7 trillion. But Uhuru still has a room to borrow extra 2 trillion because this particular National Assembly extended the debt ceiling to 9 trillion. Where were you, the Honorable Didi Nyoro and other members of Parliament that give the President the leeway to borrow? He's currently, I saw the data, is it yesterday, we are borrowing 285 billion. 400 billion. 400 billion is not nothing. Uhuru can borrow 2 trillion and you will not do a damn thing about it. In any case, you have given him the ceiling, that ceiling. You have increased the debt ceiling to that level. Therefore, I think for me, can we have priorities set straight? We continue to take debt. Our income or our revenue continues to shrink. Our Kenya shillings continues to lose in the money market, and therefore continues to increase our debts. What is this government doing about that? Are we simply, haven't you seen Nigeria is now in recession? One of the most populous nations in Africa is in recession.
With a lot of natural resources.
It is about management, my brother. It is. This country has a lot of natural resources too. How are we managing it? Today, we are one of the countries that is importing titanium, exporting titanium. These big vehicles you see, Bugatti and other racing vehicles, they are made with titanium because the boiling point of titanium is very high. And they are going at a very crazy speed. What value are we getting? Other than having titanium base, which is a Canadian company, what value is it giving?
Is it giving us?
Is it giving us? How are we managing our natural resources? How have we managed them to the level? Let me tell you. I see us mining oil from Turkana and selling it at peanuts. And I ask myself, why couldn't we leverage that oil still on the ground and get money on it? Today, what has America done? America does not mine its oil until there will be a necessity to. But they have taken money on those oil fields. Money, that oil is still in the ground, They are not using it, but they have leveraged that oil to get financing of programs. Why can't we? Today, I will surprise you, Bitok. The biggest water reservoir in the Eastern Central Africa is in Turkana. The biggest water reservoir.
Yeah.
It is lying there. It is not helping the people of Turkana. Can the government leverage this reservoir of water to companies that can come drill that water 20 years to come, pick that money and uplift the economy of the people of Turkana? So it is about management of our natural resources. How well do we manage them? How well do we ensure that despite the fact that we do not mine them, they become a national treasure that can attract a lot of money? Today, we will not be leveraging loans to be paying with our tax, collected tax. We'll be leveraging loans with a water reservoir in company that a nation can come claim its loan after that years we have invested that money and build an economy. So this is an issue, Bitok, of a government that has its misplaced priorities,
misplaced.
and it is not managing our natural resources the way they should be managed. Today we are one of the biggest producing limestone country. How is it helping us?
All right, Ben, your tackle of the day as we close.
I'll echo what my party leader, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, has always reminded us. The economy, the country is broke, and we are almost busting the ceiling. And he's repeated this, and I think the best thing that the president would have been doing now would be to put in place an economic recovery team in preparedness as we approach it, just in case the vaccine that is being tested is found to be working. But now I'm telling you, even after the post-COVID, I do not think that we are prepared on economic recovery at all. So my take as per now is that I think Kenyans have just to brace ourselves for more hardship times ahead, because sincerely speaking, we are on our own. Because if you look at it that way, for example, if you were to send your grandmother 1,000 shillings, you know, you were sending it minus the charges. You understand? Yeah. So if they are now going to charge you again, are you going to send it to her again? So it's going to be costly. So I think Kenyans are on our own, and I want to believe the only other person that is with Kenyans is Musalia Mudavadi, and Kenyans tukae na Musalia, because he's the only person who has been speaking on behalf of Wanjiko day in, day out. He's the only person who has addressed who has raised the issue of addressing the gray areas on the BBI. But Raila amesema tupitishe vile ilivyo,
tupangane
mbele. He's the only person who has been reminding us about where the economy is. And when he's telling us that, we should not forget that he was Minister of Finance at the age of 33. And he took over when the economy was on its lowest knees. You know? So that is all I can say.
Muchendu, umecheka as you give us your tackle of the day.
No, I've just remembered that Musalia Mudavadi was the Minister of Education, was on class 4. And somebody has the audacity kusema ati tukae na Musalia bana. We need to move away from Stone Age politicians. Yeah, we need to move away from now. That is on a lighter note. I share a lot of sentiment.
You need to withdraw that.
Yes. No.
You need to withdraw that.
No, let me tell you. Let me be honest with you. There is absolutely no way in heaven or hell I can support anyone who was a minister when I was in class 4.
Which year was that?
My friend, that was
Which year was that?
That was 1990. Was it 1993 or 1994? My friend, you know, there is someone who has, even when he was minister, even Mark Zuckerberg was not born.
No, what you are saying.
Imagine that.
No,
yes.
What you are saying is that you elect a leader because of the age, not
No.
because of the capability.
I am talking about him being a minister from 89 or 88? Should be there about.
How long has Joe Biden been?
No. Hold your horses. I am simply saying, him being a minister from then, how he has adjudicated in a government that has continuously failed this republic. He cannot run away from the financial mishaps by the government of President Moi. When he was in power, he was responsible. If you are talking about personal capability, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi and any other Kano minister, anybody who was in Kano minister, including the current deputy president, they must stand us and tell us what is it that they did during President Moi that brought some hope in this republic. That is it. And to make the matter worse, Musalia Mudavadi is actually, we should not be referring to him as just the former minister of finance. He's a former vice president of this republic. Anyway, that was just beside the point. Today my tackle is on the Election Act. In 16th of January 2017, the Parliament enacted a law that requires every person contesting for the member of parliament or contesting for the MCA to have a degree. And I feel, for me, this is not constitutional, and it is something I am ready to go and challenge in court, because one, this republic only requires that every Kenyan must undergo compulsory primary school and education and secondary school education. Therefore, by defact is that the minimum educational requirement in this republic should be that of a secondary school, because that is where the Minister of Education puts a cut on the mandatory education. Number two, we have thousands of Kenyans who apply for the Higher Education Loans Board and they do not get. Subsequently, some of them do not end up going to university. We end up then punishing them in parliament by declaring that for you to ascertain a seat, to get a seat as a member of parliament or as an MCA, you must have a degree. This guy did not get the required bursary or help from government to make it to that degree. Therefore, he has not lived up to his expectation in life. And you also go and gag him because of lack of a degree. Number three, the right to vote must be equated to the right to be voted. It is not possible that a Kenyan, I have a right to vote, but I do not have a right to vote the person I want. Somebody has actually pre-selected me a certain courage of people for me to choose. And then the most important of them all, what is the percentage of people with degrees in this republic? I'll tell you. Research has shown that we have about about 1.2 million people with degrees in this republic. Out of the 1.2 million people with degrees in this republic, 600 of them are illegally acquired degrees. Only 400,000 people have genuine degrees. If you convert that particular percentage of people with degrees in this republic to the 50 million Kenyans that we have, they represent a percentage that is not 2%. Therefore, Parliament has enacted a registration that requires the rest of the 50 million Kenyans to be controlled by 2%, which only has degrees in this republic. It is not fair and equal representation for Kenya to enact law requires requiring people to have degrees. Today, I am here in the tackle, and I've been in the presence of people without degrees who can canvass issues. And having a degree must not be equated to the capacity to interrogate and exercise legal potential in the county assembly or in the National Assembly. Therefore, we are the Parliament of Kenya. We are coming for you. We are seeking a constitutional interpretation into that particular requirement that broke quite a number. Can I tell you the ripple effect of that? 2 county assemblies in this republic, 2 county assemblies, each has only 2 graduates. By the fact that that law is going to come to force in 2022, you will be sending an entire assembly home based on a requirement that does not meet the human rights threshold. It does not meet the criteria. Today, we have come up with a new education system called the CBC. CBC declares that at a certain point it is going to be decided, Muchendu, you will not go to university because your ability is in tertiary courses.
Technical.
Are you telling me that person, because he has been forced by CBC to go to the tertiary way, he now cannot get a chance to be the president of the republic or the governor or the MCA because he went to do tertiary? That is something we need to look at, that you cannot gag 49 million Kenyans that they do not have a pathway to leadership of this country simply because they do not have a degree. That only 1 million of Kenyans are capable of leading this republic.
All right. Thank you so much, Muchendu. Thank you so much, Ben, for coming in. This is your first time here. To all the tacklers who have been coming in. Okiya Omtatah, asante sana kwa kuja pia. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for this discussion. Thank you for the guys who have been commenting as well. Naona just comments tu kidogo. Naona let's return some every time I listen to the tackle a new idea. I listen to a tackle a new idea. Thanks, Gerald. Bitok, asante sana. James Maina, Gerald also asked Mr. Muchendu to argue our case in court too. We dual citizens are not allowed to contest election post. Wow, that's James Maina. Political a good debate. Thank you so much. Abbas Njuguna Sama, I agree with Muchendu. As far as management of the country resources is concerned, it's a shame that Kenya sometimes receives food donations considering land and climate available. All those reasons always given are stories. Brian Mulama, congratulations team Bitok, Lavuna doing well. Asante sana. Naona mtetea mdosi na majamaa Mudavadi unajianga sana kutetea. Asante sana mheshimiwa ni Mike Sugut. Abbas Njuguna Sama, BBI is a scam period. However much it is discussed, dissected, soaked, spiced and marketed or linked, it will never pass. Charity Kirosa Malukdina Santa Sana. Kibrano Sansa in Australia, job keeper will be extended by 6 months. Coronavirus supplement will be extended to 1 year. Job trainer skills package to give hundreds of thousands of Australians and upskilling them into sectors with job opportunities. In Kenya, BBI Manenos, BV cases revived. Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting space to be in. Naona Paris in some morning team. Paris, umechelewa sana siku hizi. Asante, thank you so much the tacklers who have been in. It's all a pleasure to have you. And I hope to have you again tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time. This is a tackle. And the tackle ends now. Let's see you again tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye. We love you.